I've been coming to this World Consumer Day now for a few years now, and we've had various seminars. There's some fundamentals that I like to highlight for those of you who may not have attended such a forum. Consumer rights really is a balancing of the services that is being provided by whether it is a real estate agent, whether it is a bank, or financial institution, or insurance company, a second-hand motor car dealer, whether it is the provision of retail goods, white goods, cameras, watches, jewelry, whatever the case may be, and the service that's actually being provided by those people and the goods that you're accessing. The reality is that we need these businesses to provide these goods to us. The reality also is that those businesses need those consumers to continue as a business. So to move forward, to remove any of the imbalances that may exist, we need to take a collaborative approach. And there needs to be an understanding by both sides as to what are the legal, not just the legal rights of those people, but potential rights that need to exist. Reality, of course, is that the consumer, generally speaking, like in all other forms of socio-economic dynamics, whether we're talking about disabled people, whether we're talking about women, whether we're talking about rights, those people who are have a disequilibrium in terms of being able to enforce their rights, there's obviously more protection given to them. There's more of what we call positive discrimination. And that is obviously essential. And it's seen throughout, in particular in civil social rights, that has been enforced. But obviously that needs to transcend beyond that and go into economic rights, or consumer rights as we talk about. And so that is critical. I, like the CEO, can give you numerous examples of areas where consumers have been marginalized, where they have paid a sum of money for a particular product, a particular service, a particular good, and they have not received it. Equally, I can give you numerous stories where there have been redress provided by companies to aggrieved consumers. So there are positive and good stories on both sides. What we need to do, though, however, is to build upon that confidence that has been created, we believe, over the past 2-3 years in particular, working in collaboration with the Consumer Council, with the Commerce Commission, and obviously with the private sector. We need to identify some of the areas where there has been neglect, and some of the areas where we can, in fact, provide a quick response to some of these areas that need to be addressed very, very expeditiously. Now, before I do that, I'd like to also talk about, when we talk about consumer rights, generally in Fiji we've seen that the discourse, there are two things. One is whether something is too expensive or not, and the other is whether you've actually, when you've actually gone ahead and bought a good or service, whether you've actually been given that good or service. And that's critical. So, for example, when you have monopolistic situations, this is why you have the Commerce Commission. I need to highlight this because I think we could confuse consumer rights with something is too expensive and therefore your rights are being breached. That we need to address. So if, for example, I'll give you an example, AFL, Airports Fiji Limited, is the only supplier of a particular service in Fiji. So any of the pricing that they get into, it needs to have the approval of the Commerce Commission. In the same way with Fiji ports, shipping companies need to provide a particular fee, or pay a particular fee. So there's going to be an increase in that fee, and because it's in a monopolistic situation, they need to go to the Commerce Commission and justify the increase. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect, of course, is where you do not have a monopoly. You have a number of suppliers in the market, and the market determines the price. So, if I'm going to go and buy a gold bracelet for my wife, and him and Lodia decides to charge me $500, and then Somebody else decides to charge me $300, or they may decide to charge $700. That's your choice. And frankly, it's not an essential item. It's not an essential good. You don't need a gold bracelet to survive. If we're talking about what are the essential things in life, and this brings me to the point of what the CEO was talking about, for example, banking services is becoming more and more essential to most people in Fiji. We generally cannot do without banks. So if banking services is a critical service that's being provided by a particular group of companies or particular group of individuals, then we need to be able to see what are the consumer protection mechanisms within that. So you have the Consumer Credit Act that in a way regulated the behavior of not just the banks or financial institutions that lend money, but also those people who actually wanted those services. What do you need to do? You need to read particular documents. If you need to read particular documents, what's the best way to make you read it? Don't have small print, have big bold letters, have a language that is simple, that's easily readable, that's easily comprehensible. So those are the sorts of things that we need to be able to provide forums for and mechanisms through which consumers get protection and are able to access the very rights that they seek to get by paying for a particular good or by paying for a particular service. Now you have, for example, seen a number of what we call informal or indirect ways of protecting consumers. The Real Estate Agents Board. The fact that you now have to be a licensed real estate agent means that as a consumer, I should go to a licensed real estate agent and use their services. I do it at my own peril if I don't. So we're not forcing you to go there, but we are forcing people who want to provide a particular service in real estate agency to get a license. So if you have a real estate licensed agent who does not provide the service, then the Real Estate Agent Board can actually take away the license. They have now been given additional powers in terms of investigation, etc., and referring this as criminal matters. I'm trying to give you some examples of the different facets of consumer rights in Fiji and the different facets of the services that are being sought by individuals and how we need to provide protection for them, but at the same time to alert businesses, look, these are some of the hardcore realities. The example that the CEO gave, that perhaps as businesses we may have particular KPIs for our frontline people. That you need to get X, Y, Z customers or this many customers within a particular period of time. So they will do whatever it takes to be able to get the number of consumers, but at the risk of perhaps marginalizing the consumers from their rights that they deserve. So these are the sorts of areas that we are looking at addressing. I think the issue about having a separate financial institution that addresses financial issues has been on the boil for a number of years. The Reserve Bank currently provides that mechanism through which complaints can be lodged. There are arguments for and against it. And I think these sorts of forums where you've got the banks and you've also got the higher purchase representatives, and of course the consumer representatives, it's a good forum to discuss that and how best we can move forward. Because I think at the end of the day we have to understand that corporations or companies or even individuals, they will very quickly realize, and in particular those who have a certain level of professionalism, that they also need to play ball in order to make money. They also need to play ball to ensure that they continue to get customers. Second-hand car dealers at the moment are a very hot topic for my office. I get a lot of complaints every day, whether it's to do with land issues, whether it's to do with police issues, whether it's to do with retailers. The most common one at the moment is I'm getting second-hand car dealers. Most recent one, I had a gentleman who said that he saved up all his money, he got a minibus license, and he bought this minibus second-hand, he's got absolutely no recourse, because there's no specific laws giving him any protection. He's gone ahead and bought this vehicle at his own peril, if you like. Whereas there are other car dealers who are the licensed car dealers who bring in brand new cars. They have certain obligations through the LTA Act. They have a certain reputation they want to protect. They're here for the long term. They've been here for decades. For the second-hand car dealers, we find more and more of that happening. People importing cars and selling from their backyards, or some of them actually may have some showrooms. But the point is, the consumer has got no protection. So we need to give him protection, because he's probably put in $70,000, $80,000 of his life savings, and it's not right. Again, it's a balancing act. For how long do we protect him if he's going to drive his minibus along the seacoast all the time? It's a question of balancing it. It's a question of, through this forum, for us to be able to come up with reasonable laws, reasonable protective mechanisms to ensure that the businesses continue to provide a particular service, the consumers continue to get a particular service, whilst having the rights and the obligations continuing on foot. The reality is, as I said in the message this morning in the media release, without consumers you cannot have economic robustness. Yesterday I was at a launch of a freehold estate development in Pacific Harbour that developed this lot. They're selling it for 800,000 Fijian dollars. The beachfront lots. The back lots are selling for $500,000 Fijian dollars. But the reality is that even those people who are buying those blocks, they also need protection. I mean, for most of us, $800,000 is a dream. But there are a lot of people obviously who can afford it also. But if they are paying a particular price, in the same way as somebody may go and rent a property for $500 a month, and there is certain representation that's been made that you will get X, Y, Z, that if you rent a 2-bedroom flat in the Sinu for $500 a month, and the electricity is working, the water is running, the roof is not leaking, you need to be given that particular protection if a certain representation has been made to you. So consumer rights is not just for the poor person. Consumer rights is for every consumer. We have to understand that. Just because I go and buy a $800 TV set, as opposed to somebody who's paying a $15,000 price for a TV, LCD, or whatever it may be called, both of you have the same rights. So please, I think that is critical to understand that consumer rights transcend socioeconomic boundaries. And consumer rights also apply to everybody, including a person who may be selling a television set for $15,000. They should not treat that person any better than anybody who may be paying, say, $800 for a TV set. And that is very, very critical to understand. Only then we can get beyond that. In respect of whether we should have more laws, whether we should have a faster mechanism through which we can provide redress, I think there's always room for discussion. As the CEO highlighted, one of the things we immediately did was to increase the jurisdictional limit from $2,000 to $5,000 for people to have access to the Small Claims Tribunal. Those of you who may not know, Small Claims Tribunal, if I, for example, am a tenant and I paid a bond to my landlord and he's not giving back my bond, and it may be $1,000, I can go to the Small Claims Tribunal. You don't need a lawyer. No lawyers are allowed. Lawyers are terrible people. But don't quote the media. But I mean, that's why we've done that. To give people, ordinary people, they can go and speak in whatever language they want. There's no legalese in that forum, and to give you a quick redress. So that was an immediate thing that we did. In terms of developing another forum through which we can provide enforcement of rights or discussion to resolve a particular outstanding issue, that's something that we are looking at, we are considering. but let's not set up something just for the sake of setting it up. We have seen many institutions being set up in Fiji, but because they have not been resourced properly, because they have not been given the proper budget, they have actually failed. The success of any organization, it depends on the durability of that organization and the expertise it's supposed to provide. And that is critical. Otherwise it becomes a bit of a joke. So I hope that in the discussions this morning with everybody here present, we can provide a lot of intellectual capital into the discussions, and of course some real life stories and how we can address these issues going forward. And I wish you all the very best in your deliberations this morning. Thank you.